One of the terms you hear a lot in fly fishing is dead drift. You want the fly to float on the water naturally, and it has to be what they call a dead drift. You can't have any drag.
Welcome to the Eternal Fishing Podcast. This is the podcast where a passion for fishing meets timeless biblical principles. Here we're casting our lines not only into the waters, but also into the very words of God. Here in this episode, I interviewed with Larry Woodrow Ross. He's a survival specialist. He's a fly fisherman. He's a fishing guide. He's an outdoorsman in just about every way you can imagine, and he's been doing it for decades. It's inspiring to talk with someone and to hear from someone who has been out in the field so long and who has maintained his passion throughout his life to be outdoors. And so he has a lot to offer. He's also, by the way, an author. He has written about 40 books that are available on Amazon Kindle, and he writes for articles, and he just contributes to the outdoor space and shares his passion, shares his love through the arts of writing and also photography. Before we jump into that call, I'm going to read for us a quote, as I often do. And this one is actually coming from Larry himself, the guy that I interviewed, since he's an author. This is what he wrote in one of his articles. Presenting a fly so that it appears to be a natural insect or bait fish on moving water requires some sophisticated skills. These are well within the scope of the average fly fisherman, but are not always properly executed. The passage of scripture for us for this episode is Romans 8:28. And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Well, Larry, thanks again for your time to do a call. I'm excited to talk with you for a number of reasons. One is because we went to the same school, North Greenville University, and also because your background, from what I see, is just really interesting with survival and primitive craft seminars and fly fishing instructor and freelance writer, photographer, fishing instructor, SCDNR. So I'm excited to talk to you. Thank you, sir, for your time.
So glad to do it. Been looking forward to talking with you.
Awesome. Well, gosh, I just read off so many things there that describe what you do. If you don't mind, could you give an introduction into who you are, what you do, those kind of things?
Sure. Well, I currently live in South Carolina. It's a Taylor's address. Taylor's is a small, semi-rural area, and we're near a big lake called Lake Robinson. So we've been here a number of years. But I actually went to Taylor's High School, graduated from Taylor's High School many, many years ago, 1959, as a matter of fact. And I was out of school 2 years and then decided to go to North Greenville, which was a 2-year school at the time. And I went to North Greenville on a basketball scholarship. Always been involved in athletics and always enjoyed it. And later worked for Milliken a number of years as a quality control technician, and then moved into apparel plant management. And I was an apparel plant manager for a couple of different companies, Stone Manufacturing and Varied Enterprises. Worked for a company as a field auditor, Intertake Testing. That was quality control, but during that time, for quite a few years, I was also a music director and a youth director, and assisted tremendously by my wife, Margaret. And I always enjoyed being involved in God's work, and we had a good relationship with the young people. So, we really enjoyed our time as when I was a youth director. And I've always enjoyed music. I have 3 daughters. We have 3 daughters, my wife, Margaret, and myself. And one of our daughters, our oldest daughter, played the piano, and my wife and I and one of the middle daughters used to sing together. And we traveled extensively and sang. And then later on, the one that sings with us started playing the piano and singing. So she kind of took over from the older daughter. So it's been an interesting lifetime from from a work standpoint. But during that time, I've also been an active hunter, fisherman, and I'm a bow hunter and a fly fisherman. And I've hunted white-tailed deer, ducks, quail. Previously, have had English setters that hunted quail extensively, and had a Labrador Retriever, which went duck hunting with me. So I've always been interested in hunting, but and I've always been interested in writing, but it's only in the past few years that I've become more actively involved in writing and photography. So, currently I write articles for some magazine work, but it's primarily websites on the internet related to Rethink Rural is one of the companies, and they sell rural property, but they publish work on gardening and hunting and fishing and human interest and so forth. And then started writing for a company called Rivers and Feathers, and that's primarily fly fishing. So
Okay.
that fits right into what I enjoy doing.
What are
Yeah.
some of the things that you typically write about, say like for the Rivers and Feathers?
Well, fly fishing in general, but I just had a recently published article which was involved with casting on moving water. So I get
Okay.
into a lot of detailed information about fly casting on moving water. And if you're a trout fisherman, most of your activities are going to be on moving water. So
Right.
it's really, real important to know how to handle your line and casting on moving water. So it takes a technical ability to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's great. I just found the article as we're talking, casting tips for moving water. That's great.
Yeah.
Riversandfeathers.com.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
been doing a number of articles for them probably the last year or so. And, always looking for new resources. I have a number of books write and post on Amazon Kindle.
Yeah.
I have about 40 books and booklets, and a lot of them are oriented, or most of them are oriented toward outdoor topics. But in addition, got a couple of novels, and I think nine of the 40 are also available as paperbacks. So
Fantastic.
something I've been involved in for a few years now.
So, I think when I think about all of the different things you've done and are currently doing, I think it's amazing. Just choosing one of the things that you've done would be really remarkable. But you do a lot of different things. How have you found yourself involved in, say, photography and survival, skills and seminars on that, and writing and fly fishing and bow hunting? I mean, you do a lot of things. How did you end up making your way into these different areas?
Well, as far as fishing, I grew up in a family that enjoyed fishing, and my father took us fishing. It was not fly fishing, but I had as a reader, I became interested in fly fishing, and I developed the skill over many years. And now, I fly fish and tie my own flies. I have a fly tying bench and a portable vise and a stationary vise, and so
Okay.
I just enjoy all aspects of it. But as far as writing, I've always had an interest in reading, and I guess that led me naturally into writing and
Sure.
wanting to express my thoughts. And I do a lot of articles about hunting and fishing and gardening. I enjoy gardening, and so that's a good topic too.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I see also on your LinkedIn that you are a certified SCDNR fishing instructor. Can you tell everybody what that means? Uh,
Yeah, I haven't been as active in that, recently. But what it is, you have to go to a training course, and once you are certified, then you teach. They're free seminars for usually people that are not. They're not skilled fishermen,
Right.
and normally a lot of children, that want to learn about fishing. So it's a free seminar presented by SCDNR. So it's a good opportunity for people to
Yeah.
learn about fishing that maybe they didn't grow up in a family that was involved and they want to learn. They're attracted
Right.
to fishing. But I've enjoyed met a lot of nice young people
Yeah.
through that program.
That's great. Yeah, what a great way to give back to the community and share the passion of fishing through teaching others
Right.
how to do it. Because it's just like anything. If you don't know, you don't know, and it's nice to have someone show you some basics on how to do it. Right.
That's right. That's right. You mentioned the question a minute ago that I just sort of slipped over, but you mentioned photography, and I've always been interested in photography. But one of the things that led me to become more involved and upgrade my equipment and so forth was, as a writer, you're a lot more you're a lot more valuable to the resources you're writing for when you can provide action pictures, especially if it's a fishing and hunting topic, and you have trophy shots, but also shots of how to do certain things and so forth. So, and I'm involved in some other less glamorous things like flint napping and so forth. And I post online on Facebook a lot of times. I post photos of some of the items that I flint napped, and also some, tools that I make related to fire starting. That's another
Oh,
skill that
okay.
I've really enjoyed
Is that what
pursuing.
is that what flint napping is? Is something related to?
Well, flint napping is the humorous description of flint napping is taking big rocks and making little rocks out
Oh,
of them.
oh,
But
yeah.
flint napping is taking large stone, and certain materials are more prone to flake properly, so that you can fashion arrowheads
Mm-hmm.
and so
Right.
forth. Like obsidian is one. Chert is a good stone, but you use a heavy instrument to break the flakes off. That's called percussion napping. And then once you get the flakes off to a manageable size, then you use pressure flaking, which can be an antler tine from a deer, or it can be copper. Copper makes a good flint napping tool. To take a heavy copper wire and
Huh.
insert it into the end of a wooden handle, and you use it to push flakes off of the stone to fashion whatever shape that
Huh.
you're trying to achieve.
Okay.
But I enjoyed flint napping. It's very interesting, and it's a technical skill. It takes a while
Sure.
to get the skill developed where
I
you can produce something that's attractive. And
I bet so. Well, I have a question about maybe some integration here of these things. So one is with the reading side, you're a reader, you're an author, but also the photography side. How would you say the reading and the photography may have contributed to either your passion for fishing or even improving your skills within fishing?
I don't know that I can say that it's improved my skills as a fisherman, but when it comes to recording an event, a fishing trip and so forth, or
Uh-huh.
or just writing about a certain technical aspect of fly casting, which happens to be the kind of fishing I do, photography is a natural addition to an article, and
Mhm.
it makes if you I usually provide about 3 photographs, sometimes more, with an article that sort of sets the theme. They follow whatever the main theme of the article is, and I try to get
Right.
supporting photos, and that makes an article much more attractive to the company that you happen to be dealing with.
Okay. Okay, it's
But it's
great.
always something I've been interested in. Just as a distinctive hobby by itself. Even if it weren't for the writing, I would enjoy it. But when you incorporate it into the writing with the writing process, it makes it much more attractive to the publisher.
Right. And very, very cool. Very cool. You're able to offer like a package deal there with that. So, which bodies of water do you go fly fishing on?
Well, we have we I enjoy going to Montana. We fished in Montana several years. As I mentioned, I live in upstate South Carolina,
Right. Right.
but we've made a number of trips to Montana, and I enjoy fishing on the Madison River and fished in Idaho. But around here, like day trips, primarily in the up into the North Carolina area, into the mountainous areas. The some of them are the smaller streams. They don't have to be extremely huge streams, but there are a lot of good streams that supports rainbow trout and brown trout, and that's the primary species that we pursue.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Rainbow and brown trout.
Yeah,
Is
and
it?
and there's a lot of places that to fish in primarily North Carolina, the southeastern part of North Carolina where we fish, and just lots and lots of little streams, and some of them are not that they're not famous. But it's amazing, it's amazing the size of stream that a nice salmon, nice trout can exist in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's really is amazing what they do and what they navigate through. It's
Mhm.
remarkable how they can fight the currents and then skate their way through little narrow areas and do
Right.
all that they do. Yeah, yeah. So when you're out, say fly fishing, is that where you get your inspiration for the articles that you write?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes maybe there's something there. Sometimes it may be an animal sighting or something that may not even be related to the fishing trip. Maybe a deer, we see a deer or a bear or something, and that's inspiration for an article. But usually it's something about the fishing, some technicality of casting in a difficult place, or maybe the approach that you have to make to be able to present the fly the way that you want to.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different aspects of it that are very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a primarily a dry fly fisherman. I do some nymph fishing, but I'm primarily a dry fly fisherman. And as I said, all the flies I fish with are flies that I tie. But
Yeah.
one of my favorite patterns is the elk hair caddis, and
Uh-huh.
I probably caught more fish on that pattern than any other pattern.
That's great. That's great. So that's kind of a go-to fly
Yeah,
for you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Which size do you typically tie that in?
Oh, I tie anywhere from usually probably 18 down to an 18, which is small. And the fly sizes are it's an inverse situation.
Right.
The larger the number, the smaller the fly.
Right. Right.
18 would be a tiny fly,
Uh-huh.
and I may tie a pattern, the same elk hair caddis pattern, starting at 18 and down to a 12 or sometimes a 10. But most of the places that I fish, a size 12 or 14 would be the typical fly that I would fish.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I have done a little bit of mountain fly fishing myself, and I'll tell you the first time I went up to fly fish, I didn't know what I was doing. My wife and I were backpacking, and I took a fly rod with me, and it was all set up wrong, and I know I spooked those trout, and the veteran fly fisherman that was there, I'm sure he was somewhat annoyed by me showing up and clunking my way around and
Right,
messing up the fish. But I did learn. I did learn. Hey, you need a different setup. So I got a 3 weight, and then I went with I think like a 6X tippet and
right.
something a little lighter, and then I ended up tying up some flies, and I think it was the yellow Sally stimulator, I think
Yeah,
is the
yeah.
one that I found the most success in. But eventually I started catching brook trout, and
Right,
it was so rewarding, to get out there and not know what you're doing, to figuring it out and then actually catching some trout. It was really a special thing for me. And I love the experience of starting with a hook and starting with materials and tying a fly and
Yep.
then going through all of the trouble, right? To find the
Right.
spot, to park, hike your way in, and then to find the fish, cast on them, and connect. It's quite a process of from the tying all the way to the implementation. For me, it's very, very rewarding.
It is, and if you fish, say in cold weather, you usually you need waders to be able to, if you step into a deep pool,
Right.
if you got waders, you don't have to worry about it. If you got hip boots, then you don't want to get over the top of the hip boots because it can be pretty cold,
Right.
during the winter months. But one thing about trout fishing, though, that it's not something you just have to pursue in warm weather. You can catch trout almost any time of the year in our area or in the North Carolina area where we fish.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things about fly fishing, though, is learning line management.
Hmm.
It's not just the casting, getting the fly to the point where you want it on the water, but once it's on the water, you have to manage it. And one of the terms you hear a lot in fly fishing is dead drift.
Uh-huh.
You want the fly to float on the water naturally, and it has to be what they call a dead drift. You can't have any drag. If there's drag and a ripple, then it doesn't look natural to the fish. So
Right.
it's a lot of technicalities involved.
Yeah, the fish aren't used to seeing a fly kind of go parallel and kind of against the current. It's like that's
No,
not right.
yeah,
That's not normally how these flies float down the river. So to your
that's
point,
right.
you have to manage your lines because then the current's also tugging on your line because it's on the
Right,
surface as well. And then
right.
that tug will then negatively impact the drift of the fly. So you have to constantly, and I say this just from my limited perspective, but you've obviously written about it. There's That's definitely an aspect to manage.
Yeah,
Um,
if you're casting upstream, like this article that I just did for Rivers and Feathers, if you're casting upstream, especially if you're at an angle, sort of diagonal upstream, as the fly drifts down, the line begins to belly out, and you have to do a little what they call a mend. You flip the line upstream so that you continue that dead drift. So it's a technique you have to develop as you fish over a period of time.
yeah, yeah, that's great. That's great. That's a
Yeah,
great tip and a great reminder of about the complexity of fly fishing, right? Because
yeah.
when you were talking about line management, I was thinking about the back cast, right? It's not just about the forward cast. You got to think about where that line's going behind
Oh
you,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
especially if you're in the narrow mountain creeks and streams. You got to make sure you're not snagging the tree behind you. So,
That's right. You may you can cast if you're standing in the stream and it's a narrow stream. You're pretty much limited to casting up and down
right,
stream, and at the last minute on the last cast, after the back cast as it starts forward, you can alter the cast so that it will go more. You can move it out to the right and get it further out in the stream. But
right,
yeah, these small streams present a casting problem sometimes.
right, right.
There, there's a guy from I'm trying to think where he's from, Pennsylvania maybe, and he's a famous fly fishing author. And I think his first name's Joe. I cannot remember his last name, but he talks about small stream fishing, and he's got some videos of small stream fishing, and it's amazing the casting ability. And some of they even use on some small areas where it's real tight, what they call a bow and arrow cast.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You actually just put out a line about the length of the rod and take the fly between your fingertips or the bend of the hook. You don't want to hook yourself, and put tension on the rod and let the rod actually flip the fly
Yeah.
into a little pool. But that's a short range, where you're stalking a
Right.
pool in a real narrow, hard to get to situation.
It's extremely stealthy, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's amazing.
but yeah. That's a great pursuit. I love fly fishing.
Yeah. So primarily rainbow trout and brown trout. Do you go after the
Yeah,
brook trout as well? The native brookies?
brook trout too. Yeah,
Okay.
and we've done some salmon fishing, but of course no salmon around here. But out west, in Alaska, we've
Yeah. Yeah.
done some salmon fishing in Alaska, and I find it kind of humorous. I've got a friend, Gene Cunningham, that is a fishing partner, and we've made several trips to Alaska together with our families and done some salmon fishing there. And he was a he entered the fly fishing community late in life, and I remember, the first salmon that he hooked, and it's like you get a 6, 7, 8 pound, 10 pound salmon
Oh yeah.
on a fly rod, and it's like hooking onto the back end of a bus. All of a
Yeah,
sudden,
yeah.
zoom, they're gone. And it was real humorous. It's a big adjustment after you're used to catching the small trout,
Right. Well,
but it's a lot of fun.
Larry, I think you've experienced the sport of fly fishing, it sounds like, for many years, and even to the point where you're writing technically about how to cast and things like that. What would be some advice that you have for someone that is trying to get into fly fishing but isn't really sure how to get started?
Well, I would find a dealer. Some of the people that some of the little specialty shops are better. If you go to a big box store, chances are the person that trying to sell, the fly rods will have no technical experience. So usually the little fly shops, especially if they offer guiding, if you go there, there's usually someone that can help you, you know, and they'll want to know what kind of streams do you fish, what kind of fly fishing are you interested in, dry fly fishing or wet fly fishing, and based on your abilities, they can recommend a rod that would be more suitable to for a beginner.
Right.
And usually a 8.5, 9 foot rod for a beginner, I would recommend, start off with a longer rod, 8.5, 9 foot rod
Right.
with a medium action, normally a 5 weight. That means, if you wanted to take it and try to catch a bass on it, it would probably be strong enough,
Right.
but it's light enough to still, when you caught smaller trout, you could experience the fun of using that rod.
Yeah.
But and then as far as equipment, tippet and line and so forth, those kind of shops would be able to advise you. But
Right.
the dedicated fly fishermen usually working in shops like that, the small fly shop. But if you get into the big box stores, then you might be able to get a good buy, and they might offer the same equipment, but you wouldn't have the skill
Right.
usually of the person that's trying to sell it, or there's nobody that can give you the technical advice that you need in selecting equipment.
Yeah, that's good. So the smaller shops are probably going to be able to give you a more personalized introduction.
Exactly. Yeah, and they may even do some guiding out of their shop,
Yeah.
so they could give you some pointers on.
Yeah.
You could get a guide, or they could at least tell you, where are some good streams, for a person that's just getting started.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, I'm curious about maybe something that you've learned over your course of fishing, maybe a lesson or something that's impacted you in a significant way from your time fishing.
Well, I just love being on the water and being out in nature. And I think that, one of the things that I think about is, you need to be cognizant of the total experience. It's not just about catching fish. It's about being in the outdoors and, God's creation, and you look around and enjoy what's around you. And that's the important thing. It's not always just about how many fish or how big the fish are.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there's there's as you progress more and more, obviously you're going to get better and catch more fish and so forth. But even at the beginning, there's so much enjoyment just in the process, just getting outside and enjoying nature.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, that's a great word, and I appreciate you sharing all of that with us. So thank you, sir. Well, how can people connect with your books or read your articles? What would be the best, or see your photography? What's the best way for people to see that and connect with those?
Well, if they can go on Amazon Kindle and just go on Amazon Kindle and put my name in. That's L. I write under my middle name, L. Woodrow Ross. My first name's Larry, but L. Woodrow Ross. If
Okay.
they'll go on and look, on Amazon Kindle and put in my name, it'll bring up all of the titles and they can see, and also Facebook. I'm on Facebook quite often, and I have posted a listing of book titles and so forth. And my my website or my email address, they can contact me directly if someone has a question for me. They could contact me directly at lross3871 at charter.net. And I would be glad to answer questions about fly fishing or hunting or whatever outdoor sport they might be interested in.
Oh, that's great. And could you say that email again?
It's L. Ross, just my first initial, L for Larry, L. Ross 3871 at charter.net.
At charter.net. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And I could answer any questions there. But, if they're a Facebook person, they could follow me on Facebook. And, I have a lot of things that pop up. I'll write things and post pictures of things. We didn't get into that. We didn't discuss the primitive craft and survival skill thing, but I'm a big advocate of primitive fire starting, and I enjoy that.
How cool.
Fire starting with a bow drill, a pump drill, flint and steel, ferrocerium rod, all of those techniques, is well versed in and enjoy that. And I just made a little device the other day. I've got a little. I think I posted a picture on it. I made a little device. It's actually a piece of an old lawnmower blade, and I got a little rectangular piece that's about 5 inches long and about probably an inch and a half wide. It's got a bottle opener on it and a tapered on the end like a chisel, and it's also I put a divot on one side that you can use as the hold down for a spindle of a bow drill. So
Yeah.
and I always enjoy making little gadgets like that and post pictures online of them.
That's great. That's great. Well, I just went on Facebook while we were talking and sent you a friend request. So I'm excited to connect with you.
Very
So,
good. Very good.
yeah, awesome. Well, Larry, thank you so much for sharing some of your knowledge and just the opportunity to talk. So I appreciate you, sir. And I look forward to connecting with you on Facebook and continuing to see all of the great things that you're doing. So thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I enjoyed talking to you very much. Nice to make your acquaintance.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
you have a good day.
you too. Thank you, sir. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that call with Larry Ross, who's an outdoorsman throughout his entire life, decades on the water, decades hunting, writing, photography, so many amazing things with his primitive survival skills. I mean, I feel like I could just talk with Larry for hours and hours. I wanted to focus on one thing he said, which was this idea of mending the line. This is the idea of when a fisherman, a fly fisherman, casts his line into a stream or a moving body of water, and the nature of the current will impact that floating line, and that will cause the fly to move unnaturally on the surface of the water. Now, that's a big deal, especially for fish that are very keen to things like that. If it's unnatural, if it's moving in an odd way, sometimes fish will not eat the fly. And so as a fisherman, you want your fly to be as natural as possible. You want it to do what it does best, which is drift with the current to fulfill its intended purpose of catching a fish. Sometimes you can have the best tied fly. It can be perfect in every way, but if the current is falsely or improperly impacting that fly so that it's not floating properly, it won't do its job. It won't fulfill its purpose. I'm reminded of what the Apostle Paul wrote in Romans 8:28. This is what he said, and I quoted this already at the beginning of the podcast. And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. I think of this, that God is working in our lives. If we're like the fly, we've been crafted with our experiences, the different things that we know, the passions, the callings, the things that he has knitted together in our lives and has made us who we are. I believe he's using that and he's casting us out with a very intentional purpose in the places where he has us, in the streams, if you will, where we live, in the rivers, in the waters where we do our lives. He's cast us out with a very intentional purpose, with our backgrounds, our knowledge, to do his work, to bring him glory, to share the good news of the gospel that Jesus died, was buried, and rose again. And if we place our faith in him, if we trust in him, not by our works, but by his works on the cross, and we believe that he rose again, then we will have everlasting life. This is our purpose. This is what we're called to do in our lives. And if you don't know him, it's time to make him your Lord and Savior. I'm telling you, don't delay. Today is the day. Now is the time. But if we've been called according to his good purpose, if he's cast us out to do good things for him, we also know that this is not an easy world to live in. There are currents at work. There are things that are going on that impact our ability to do the good work we've been called to do. But don't be discouraged, because just like a fly fisherman will adjust the line on the water, he'll pick it up and move it so that that fly is not impacted by the negative currents on that floating line, so that the fly continues to float naturally. Romans 8:28 says that we know that God is at work in the good of those who love him. He's at work taking all of these negative things that happen in our life and knitting them in such a way and working the situation so that we continue to fulfill the purpose that he's called us to do. It's encouraging. It's wonderful. It's great news to say that God's will be done. He is sovereign. He is in control. And our job is to be as faithful as we can and place our hope not in our ability, but in him as the master fisherman who mends the line in our lives so that we fulfill the good purpose that he's called us to fulfill. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Eternal Fishing Podcast. I hope that the show has been as much of a blessing for you as it has been for me. Be sure to like and follow the show on whatever platform you consume it, and also share it with your friends so that we can help get the word out. Until next time.